Hi everyone, welcome to English Advanced Podcast. Today, I want to talk to you about something that every English learner dreams of, thinking in English. You see, many people study English for years, memorize grammar rules, and practice speaking, but when it comes to expressing themselves naturally, they still find their thoughts trapped in their native language. The words have to go through a kind of translation tunnel before they come out in English. And by the time they do, the conversation has already moved on. So, what does it actually mean to think in English? Thinking in English means that your brain starts to process ideas, emotions, and daily thoughts directly in English, without translating. It's not about perfection, it's about fluency of thought. Imagine you're walking down the street, and you see a beautiful tree. Instead of saying in your language, "That's a beautiful tree," and then translating it into English, your first reaction is simply, "That's a beautiful tree." That's thinking in English. But how do we reach that level? How do we train our minds to live in English, not just study it? The first step is to surround yourself with the language. Language is not just a set of words, it's a whole environment. Every time you listen to English songs, watch English videos, or even read signs or product labels in English, you're feeding your mind with the rhythm, the patterns, and the culture of the language. The second step is to stop translating, or at least try to. Translation feels like a safety net, but it actually slows you down. When you hear a new word, don't rush to find its meaning in your language. Instead, try to understand it through examples, pictures, or feelings. For example, if you hear the word cozy, don't think, that means comfortable. Think of a small warm room, a soft blanket, a cup of tea. Let your brain build meaning through experience, not translation. Now, another powerful way to think in English is through self-talk. I know it sounds funny, but talking to yourself in English, in your head or even out loud, is one of the most effective exercises you can do. Describe what you're doing. I'm making coffee. Ask yourself questions. What should I wear today? This habit trains your brain to stay in English mode all day long, even when no one else is around. And here's something even deeper. Thinking in English also means feeling in English. Every language has its emotional flavor. When you start to laugh at English jokes, or when certain English words start to feel natural, almost comforting, that's when the language becomes part of you. You're not just learning vocabulary anymore. You're building a new voice inside your head. But of course, this doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual transformation. Some days, your thoughts will still come in your first language, and that's okay. The goal is not to erase your native language. It's to create another channel in your mind, one where English flows freely, without hesitation or fear. To help with this, one very practical exercise is narrating your day in English. This is simple but incredibly effective. From the moment you wake up, try to describe what you're doing or what you see, even if it's just in your mind. I'm brushing my teeth. I need to send an email. The weather looks cloudy today. These small sentences might seem ordinary, but they are powerful because they connect English directly to your daily life. You're not studying the language anymore. You're living it. The key here is consistency, not perfection. You don't have to use fancy grammar or complex words. Even broken English, spoken consistently in your thoughts, slowly becomes natural English. Over time, your mind begins to associate actions and emotions directly with English words. And that's when real fluency begins. Another helpful method is to label your environment. Put sticky notes around your room: mirror, door, window, desk. When you look at these objects, say their names in English, not your language. This visual repetition rewires your brain to recognize the world through English. Soon, you won't even think about what the word for mirror is. It will simply be mirror. Also, read and listen actively. When you watch an English movie or a YouTube video, don't just passively consume it. Pause sometimes, repeat phrases, mimic the tone, and notice how ideas connect. Ask yourself, why did the speaker choose this word? How did they express surprise or disagreement? By doing this, you start to think the way English speakers think, noticing rhythm, emphasis, and emotion. Then there's journaling, writing your thoughts, feelings, or reflections in English. It doesn't matter if your sentences are perfect. What matters is that you're expressing real ideas in English. Try writing about your day, your plans, or your dreams. When you write in English, your thoughts begin to organize themselves in English too. And don't underestimate the power of curiosity. Every time you hear a new word, don't just memorize it, explore it. Ask yourself, where would I use this word? What kind of emotion does it carry? For instance, the word serene isn't just calm. It carries a feeling of peaceful beauty, like a quiet lake or a soft morning. By connecting words with emotions and images, you're building a deeper mental map of English. Now, one of the most important shifts you can make is in your mindset. Many learners think, I can't think in English because my English isn't good enough yet. But that's backward. You don't need perfect English to start thinking in English. You start thinking in English to make your English better. It's a process of trust. You allow your brain to make mistakes, to sound weird, to hesitate, and through that process, it grows stronger and more fluent. Fluency is not the absence of mistakes, it's the presence of flow. When your ideas can move without constant interruption, when your thoughts start forming in English naturally, that's fluency, even if your grammar isn't perfect. So the next time you catch yourself translating, pause. Ask yourself, can I express this directly in English, even if it's simple? Use basic words, but speak or think freely. The more you do this, the shorter the distance becomes between your thoughts and your English voice. It's called immersion mimicry. This technique is simple but incredibly powerful. It means imitating not just the words of native English speakers, but also their tone, rhythm, and emotion. Think of it like acting. You're stepping into the mindset of someone who thinks in English. For example, take a short clip of a native speaker, maybe an actor, a YouTuber, or even a TED Talk. Listen carefully to how they express ideas, how their voice rises when they're excited, how it softens when they're thoughtful. Then, replay the same sentence and try to say it exactly as they do, not word by word, but emotion by emotion. This exercise does more than improve pronunciation. It builds emotional connection. You're not just copying sounds, you're learning how English feels when spoken naturally. Over time, your brain starts to link emotion and expression directly to English, and you begin to think with the same rhythm. Now, immersion mimicry can be done anywhere. You can practice while walking, cooking, or even while waiting for the bus. The idea is to make English your companion, not just a subject you study for an hour, but a voice that walks with you through your day. And this leads us to another vital concept, identity in language. When you learn English, you're not just learning new words. You're slowly building a new version of yourself, one that lives inside that language. Every language shapes how we see the world. When you start thinking in English, you may notice subtle changes. You might describe emotions differently or express ideas in new ways. That's because each language offers its own way of seeing reality. Think about it. In English, we say time flies. In some languages, people say time runs or time passes. Each phrase carries a different image. So when you think in English, you start to perceive time, emotions, and relationships through a different lens. It's not just communication, it's transformation. This transformation takes courage. You have to allow yourself to sound different, to feel slightly outside your comfort zone. But that's exactly where growth happens. When you stop worrying about sounding perfect and start focusing on sounding real, your thoughts begin to move freely. Now let's talk about something that often gets ignored, the inner silence. That quiet moment before you speak or think. Many learners panic in that silence, rushing to fill it with words. But if you use that silence wisely, it can become your best training space. In that pause, instead of translating or panicking, try to visualize the idea directly in English. See the image. Feel the word. Let English fill that silence naturally, like a breath. This practice rewires your thinking patterns. It teaches your brain that English is not something foreign to be recalled. It's something present to be expressed. And here's an exercise you can try tonight. Before you sleep, replay your day in your mind. but in English. Go through what you did, what you said, what you felt. You don't have to speak aloud, just think in English sentences. For example, I woke up late today. I was tired, but the coffee helped. Tomorrow I'll wake up earlier. This small routine strengthens your inner English narrative day by day. Gradually, your mind begins to dream, plan, and reflect in English. And when that happens, you've crossed a bridge from being a student of English to being a thinker in English. But there's one more layer, something deeper than practice or repetition. It's about confidence in your inner voice. When you start thinking in English, sometimes your brain will doubt itself. Is this correct? Do I sound strange? That voice of doubt is natural, but you must learn to quiet it. Because thinking in English is not about being right all the time. It's about trusting your instincts. When a child learns their first language, they don't stop to check grammar. They make mistakes constantly, but they keep going, and through that fearless use of language, they become fluent. You must give yourself that same freedom. Speak to yourself in English as kindly and patiently as you would speak to a child learning to talk. Encourage your mind instead of judging it. Over time, this self-acceptance creates a mental space where English can grow without fear. And that space, that mental openness, is where real fluency begins. Now, once your mindset is ready, the next step is to train your situational thinking, the ability to respond automatically in English depending on context. This means preparing your mind to think in certain patterns. How you order food, how you react when surprised, how you explain something complicated. It's like building mental scenes, and each scene has its own English rhythm. For example, imagine you're in a cafe. Don't just memorize phrases like, "Can I have a coffee, please?" Instead, visualize the situation, the smell of coffee, the sound of people talking, the moment the barista asks, "What would you like?" And you respond naturally. This visualization helps your brain form automatic reactions in English. No translation needed. You can practice this with everyday scenes, at the supermarket, at work, during travel. The more you mentally rehearse these moments in English, the more natural your real reactions become. And that's when something amazing happens. English stops being something you switch on. It becomes your default mode in certain situations. That's how bilingual thinkers live. They don't decide which language to use. Their brain simply chooses the one that fits the moment. But to strengthen this reflex, there's another technique I want to introduce. One that connects emotion, memory, and fluency in a surprisingly powerful way. It's called emotional anchoring. This method is based on one simple truth. We remember and think best when emotion is involved. Emotion gives language life. When you connect English words to real feelings, happiness, surprise, love, curiosity, even frustration, they stop being abstract vocabulary and start becoming part of you. Here's how it works. Whenever you experience something emotional, maybe you're laughing at a joke, feeling inspired by a movie, or even frustrated with a situation, express that feeling in English right at that moment. Don't wait to translate later. If you drop your phone, say to yourself, "Oh no," or "That scared me." If you're excited about something, let it out. This is amazing. These emotional reactions are tiny, but they're powerful because they train your brain to feel in English. And once your emotions start responding in English, your thoughts naturally follow. You can also anchor emotions to learning. For example, if a new word makes you smile, exaggerate that feeling. Say the word with excitement, repeat it with energy, imagine using it in a funny sentence. That emotion acts like glue. Your brain holds on to the memory because it feels alive. Another way to strengthen emotional anchoring is through story connection. When you learn a new phrase or expression, build a small story around it, something that makes you laugh or feel something real. For instance, if you learn the phrase "get cold feet," don't just memorize the meaning. To feel nervous before doing something. Imagine a scene. You're about to speak on stage, and suddenly your legs freeze. You laugh. You feel the nervousness. That's how the phrase becomes yours. Over time, you'll notice that English words start to carry their own energy. You'll feel the difference between happy, joyful, glad, and thrilled. Not because you memorize definitions, but because each one triggers a slightly different emotion. That's when you're not just learning English, you're living it. Now let's connect this emotional practice with a deeper mental shift, something I like to call thinking through images instead of words. You see, when we think in our first language, our mind often builds images before words appear. We think of a place, a face, a feeling, and then our language wraps around that image. To think in English, you can use that same process, but replace your native language labels with English ones. For example, imagine a beach. Don't say the word in your language. Instead, let English rise first. Beach, sand, waves, sunlight. Let the English words paint the picture. When you do this often, your brain learns to connect English directly with experience, not translation. You can even practice this with silent observation. When you're walking outside, describe what you see in your mind, not with full sentences, but with short English impressions. Blue sky, kids laughing, traffic noise, smell of coffee. This simple act of noticing in English strengthens your inner language loop. And remember, thinking in English is not about speed, it's about connection. The goal isn't to rush through your thoughts. It's to let English become the natural shape of how you see and feel the world. Now, once you start building these emotional and visual connections, your English begins to grow roots. It becomes internal, intuitive. But to make it truly automatic, there's another level, one that involves rhythm and sound. Every language has its music. English, for example, flows with stress and melody. Some words rise, others fall. Some syllables stretch, others snap. When you start hearing that rhythm, not just understanding words, your thoughts begin to dance in English. So here's an exercise. Choose a short passage from a song, poem, or even a speech that you like. Don't just read it, feel its rhythm. Say it aloud, notice how the words move in waves. Then close your eyes and repeat it again, letting your voice follow the music. This exercise doesn't just help pronunciation, it aligns your thinking tempo with English. Because language isn't only about words, it's about flow. And the more your mind learns that rhythm, the more naturally it can think and speak without stopping to translate. Soon, you'll notice that when you're lost in thought, maybe daydreaming, planning, or even worrying, English will start to appear without effort. That's your brain telling you, this is now one of my languages. At that point, the boundary between learning and being starts to fade. You're no longer switching between two worlds. You're living in both. But before that happens fully, there's one more powerful dimension to master: contextual flexibility. The ability to shift your English thinking based on who you're with, what you're doing, or how you feel. This is where true mastery begins, because thinking in English isn't just one mode, it's many. To build this flexibility is not the same English you use in meetings or when you write emails. So instead of trying to use one perfect English, start developing different inner voices for different moments. You might have a casual voice that says, "Hey, what's up?" A professional one that says, "Let's discuss this further," and a reflective one that says, "I've been thinking about this idea lately." By practicing these voices, you're teaching your brain to think in shades of English, not just one flat version. And once your mind can shift naturally between these voices, you've reached a stage where English isn't something outside of you anymore. It's something within. Now, as we move deeper into this journey, there's one last concept I want to unfold. One that brings together emotion, rhythm, imagination, and identity into a single practice. It's the stage where English truly becomes the language of your inner world. It's called inner immersion. Inner immersion means that English is no longer just something around you. It's something inside you. It's when English stops being a subject and becomes a state of mind. You don't force it anymore. You enter it like stepping into water. You feel its rhythm, its calm, its current, and you move with it. To experience inner immersion, you must create a mental environment where English feels natural even when you are silent. It begins when your thought energy, your imagination, your curiosity, your self-talk, all exist in English. For example, when you're lost in thought and a question appears, what if? Why did that happen? Maybe tomorrow will be better. Those phrases begin to form in English automatically. That's inner immersion. It's the point where you don't translate, you don't try, you simply think and feel in English. But to reach that state, you need a combination of 3 practices: presence, association, and reflection. Presence means being conscious of English in every small moment, not as a task, but as awareness. When you hear someone speaking English, pause and feel it. When you see English words on a sign, a product, a headline, don't just recognize them, absorb them. Let them remind you that English is part of your world now, not something far away. Association means linking English to every part of your daily life. If you love music, listen and sing in English. If you love food, follow English recipes. If you like journaling, write a few lines in English every night. When English connects to things you love, it grows naturally, without resistance. And then comes reflection, the quiet practice of revisiting your thoughts in English. At the end of the day, ask yourself, what did I feel today? What did I learn? What surprised me? Say it or write it in English. Reflection turns English from communication into contemplation. This combination, presence, association, reflection, builds an emotional home for English inside your mind. It's no longer a foreign guest. It becomes part of your identity. And when that happens, your inner monologue, that voice that comments on life, asks questions, dreams, worries, starts to flow in English. You might find yourself narrating your thoughts like a story. I should call my friend. That sunset looks beautiful. I wonder what's next. You'll notice that this inner dialogue feels lighter, freer, because English, as a language, tends to be direct, expressive, and rhythmically open. That's the secret many learners never realize. The more you think in English, the more your emotions begin to adapt to the shape of the language. You start to express confidence differently, kindness differently, even humor differently, because English gives you new emotional tools. At this stage, it's not just about grammar or vocabulary anymore. It's about energy. English starts to carry your thoughts forward. It's not something you control. It's something you flow with. Now imagine this. You wake up one morning, and the first thought that appears in your mind is in English. Maybe something simple like, I'm still sleepy, or I need coffee. You smile because you didn't plan it. It just happened. That's when you know you've crossed over from learning English to living it. But inner immersion doesn't stop there. Once you've built that space inside, you can expand it. You can use English to explore new ideas, to reflect on your feelings, even to think about your goals and dreams. And here's the magic. When you start dreaming and planning in English, you're not just practicing language anymore. You're shaping your future with it. Because thinking in English isn't just about communication. It's about transformation. It's about seeing yourself as someone who can move between worlds, between perspectives, between voices. It's about freedom. The freedom to express any part of yourself in any language you choose. And that's why when you practice thinking in English, you're also practicing confidence, creativity, and courage. Every thought you form in English is a small act of bravery, proof that your mind can adapt, evolve, and grow. Now, to strengthen this transformation, there's one final habit that can elevate your English thinking to an almost instinctive level. It's not about speaking faster or memorizing more words. It's about alignment. It's about syncing your thoughts, emotions, and language so completely that they move as one. This habit is known as alignment thinking. Alignment thinking is when your thoughts, feelings, and words move together effortlessly in English. It's when your mind, your heart, and your language are synchronized, when there's no gap between what you feel and what you can say. Many learners struggle because their emotions exist in one language and their words in another. They feel something deeply, but can't express it naturally in English, so the feeling gets stuck. Alignment thinking removes that barrier. It allows your inner world to breathe in English. To practice alignment, you need to combine emotional honesty with linguistic simplicity. That means, when you feel something, express it in English as directly as possible, even if it's with basic words. For instance, if you feel lonely, say to yourself, I feel alone right now. If you feel grateful, say, I'm thankful for today. These short, real sentences align emotion and language. Because alignment is not about complexity, it's about truth. When you think honestly in English, your brain begins to trust that language. It learns that English is not just for studying or performing, it's for living. Another way to build alignment is through mindful repetition. This means taking short, meaningful English phrases and repeating them slowly, not to memorize, but to feel their energy. For example, I'm here now. I can do this. Everything begins with a thought. When you repeat such sentences with awareness, you're not just learning them, you're merging with them. They become part of your inner dialogue. And soon, when challenges appear in your life, you'll find that your first reaction, your first comforting thought, might come in English. Something like, it's okay, I'll try again. That's alignment working quietly in the background. Your mind has accepted English as a voice of comfort and strength. But alignment goes even deeper. It's also about body language and tone. When you think in English, you might notice that your posture, gestures, even facial expressions subtly shift. English carries a certain rhythm, a particular openness. By aligning your body with that rhythm, you reinforce your mental fluency. Try this simple exercise. Stand in front of a mirror and say a few English sentences. Something encouraging, something true. Notice how your face moves, how your voice flows. Feel the language physically. This physical awareness connects your brain's motor system with your emotional system, and together they create fluid, natural English thought. And now, here's a deeper secret about alignment. It's not just about you and the language, it's also about your connection to others. Because thinking in English isn't only internal, it's also relational. The more you use English to listen, to empathize, to connect, the more your thoughts align with its emotional structure. When you listen to someone's story in English, and you feel what they mean, not just understand the words, your brain is aligning with the human side of the language. That's how you stop being a learner and start being a communicator. At this level, English becomes a living part of your identity. You no longer translate who you are, you simply are in English. And when that happens, a fascinating thing occurs. You start to notice your thoughts becoming quieter, clearer. The noise of translation fades. English begins to sound not foreign, not learned, but natural. It becomes the voice of your focus, your reflection, your creativity. That's when thinking in English is no longer a skill, it's a state. A peaceful, flowing state of mind where language serves your thoughts instead of limiting them. But to reach this state consistently, you must keep nurturing it daily, through one final habit that holds everything together. It's something so simple that many overlook it, but it's the secret of maintaining inner fluency. This final habit is called daily attunement. Daily attunement is the quiet practice of keeping your mind in tune with English every single day. Not through effort, but through gentle presence. Think of it like tuning a musical instrument. If you leave a guitar untouched for too long, its strings loosen and its sound fades. But if you tune it a little each day, it stays ready to play. Your mind works the same way with language. When you tune your thoughts daily in English, even for just a few minutes, your inner rhythm stays clear and fluent. Now, attunement doesn't have to be a formal lesson or a study session. It can be as simple as reading a short poem in English in the morning, whispering your plans for the day in English, or watching a minute of a speech that inspires you. It's not about quantity, it's about connection. You're telling your mind, English is part of me every day. Some people meditate in silence, others pray, others journal. For you, attunement can mean a moment of English reflection. Sit quietly, breathe deeply, and let a few English thoughts rise naturally. Don't force them, just observe. Maybe it's a memory, a plan, or even a single phrase like, I'm grateful for today. This small ritual has immense power. It keeps your brain's English circuits active, smooth, and emotionally warm. It tells your subconscious, this language matters, it belongs here. And when you practice attunement regularly, English begins to settle into your deeper layers of thinking, the part that doesn't just reason, but feels, dreams, and imagines. That's when English starts shaping the way you create ideas, make decisions, and even understand yourself. Because language is not just a tool for talking to others, it's the mirror you use to talk to your own soul. When you think in English, you're not only expanding your communication, you're expanding your consciousness. You're giving yourself another lens through which to view life. You start noticing details you never noticed before, expressing emotions you never had words for, and understanding nuances you couldn't name before. English becomes not only a bridge to the world, but a bridge to yourself. And that's why daily attunement is so important, because it's the quiet reminder that you are both a student and a creator of language. Every time you think, whisper, or feel something in English, you're shaping the language inside your mind, and it, in return, is shaping you. Now, as you continue walking this path, from translation to immersion, from emotion to alignment, from awareness to attunement, you'll notice a transformation that goes beyond words. You'll start to see that thinking in English is not just about communication or even mastery. It's about freedom. Freedom from hesitation. Freedom from fear. Freedom from the limits of one voice. When you think in English, you're giving yourself the ability to exist in multiple worlds, to express multiple dimensions of who you are. You're becoming multilingual not just in speech, but in thought. And that truly is the power of language. It doesn't only connect people, it expands the boundaries of the mind. So when you close your eyes tonight and hear your thoughts gently whispering in English, don't rush to silence them. Smile. That's the sound of growth. That's your new inner voice taking its first deep, fluent breath. And if you listen closely enough, you'll realize that this voice, this calm, confident, evolving English voice, is not foreign anymore. It's you. And from that moment on, every day becomes another step deeper into fluency, another step into self-expression, another step into the rhythm of English thought. Because the journey never truly ends, it only deepens. And tomorrow morning, when you wake up, all you have to do is begin again. Think one thought in English. Feel one feeling in English. Breathe one breath in English. And then the next. And the next. And the next. Because the truth is, there is no finish line in language, only movement. Every thought you form in English, every quiet sentence in your mind, every word you whisper to yourself, they are all steps along an infinite path. A path not toward perfect English, but toward authentic English. The kind of English that feels alive inside you. So don't chase the moment when you'll finally think in English. Instead, notice that it's already happening, little by little, every time you choose to live one thought, one feeling, one decision in English. There will be days when your mind switches back to your first language. Let it. It's not failure, it's balance. Each language you know is a color in your mental palette. Thinking in English simply means you now have one more shade to paint your world with. And as you continue, you'll find that English isn't just a second language anymore, it becomes a second home. A place where your ideas rest, your dreams speak, and your future begins to form words of its own. So take this with you. Thinking in English is not just about fluency, it's about identity. It's about giving your mind another melody to think with, another rhythm to feel with, another voice to express who you are. Because in the end, language isn't something we learn, it's something we become. So think bravely, think softly, think honestly, think in English, and let your thoughts carry you forward, not just into a new language, but into a new version of yourself.